Okay, so 34, this one we did yesterday. That was the start of a mixed practice where you don't know whether it's, yes, you need your calculator.
I know.
Whether you know it's sines or cosines. And so now we're on 38. Okay, so 38, we know A is 4, and B is 55 degrees, and little c is 5. So on this one, we're going to use the law of sines or cosines. And how do you know? So basically, to answer that, if you know only one angle, it must be cosines. And so because of that, B is the angle we know, and so we're going to start with B squared. So B squared is A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. So we have 4 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 4 times 5 cosine 55 degrees. And so you have everything on the right side, and then just don't forget to take your square root. And so you type all that in, take your square root, and you get 4.25 for little b. So now you can't change laws in the middle of the problem, so you're going to do the law of cosines again, but this time with A. So basically, in my answer, I rounded it to 4.25, but as I do my calculation, I'm going to retrieve what I typed, use the previous answer in those two places. And so then if you move your whole number terms over here, then you get negative 27 point something. And if you multiply negative 2 times 5, that's negative 10. Negative 10 times 4.25 basically gives you negative 42 point something. And you still have your cosine of your angle attached with that. And now you want to divide and take your inverse cosine. So cosine negative 1 of negative 27 something over negative 42 something, and that gives you 50.5 degrees. So again, just like yesterday, just use your calculator a lot for this. So now that we know two angles in the triangle, we just add those and subtract from 180. So 50.5 plus 55 is 105.5. And then 180 minus 105.5 gives you 74.5. And that's C. Okay. 43. So this is the start of some word problems, and this particular one has to do with golf. And so basically this guy hit a tee shot off to the rough, and so the ball is over here, and there's a distance of 35 yards to the fairway that way, and then to the flag, it's right there, and they say this is a 110-degree angle. And so they want to know how far the ball is from the flag. So this is basically a marker in the middle of the fairway. So he knew that distance, he paced it off, and it was 35 yards. And he knows from that marker to the flag is 150. And so then we need X. So on this one, are we going to use sines or cosines? We have two sides and an angle. So anytime we have just one angle, we have to use cosines. And so we're going to say x squared equal 35 squared plus 150 squared minus 2 times 35 times 150 cosine of 110. And then x is the square root of that. And you round it to the whole number of yards, and you get 165 yards. All right, 44. This one has to do with navigation. So basically, on this ship, they're at Fort Myers. Then you go 150 miles to Sarasota. And then you have this little angle of 50 degrees, and you're going 100 miles to Orlando. And then they want to know the distance directly. So the first thing we're going to do is realize if this is 50, we need the angle inside the triangle, which would be the supplement. So we do 180 minus 50 and we get 130 degrees. 130 degrees for this angle. And then we use our law of cosines again. So x squared equal 150 squared plus 100 squared minus 2 times 150 times 100 cosine of 130 degrees. And then just type all that. X equal the square root of the answer. And this one, rounded to the number of miles, is 228 miles. By the way, the order doesn't matter on the 150 and 100, as long as you have both of them. You could have said 100 squared and 150 squared. You know, that wouldn't have mattered. And that's part A for that one. Part B for this is what's the angle? What angle from Fort Myers? And so I'm going to call it angle B because we're on part B. And so we're going to use 100 squared equals 150 squared plus your 228 squared, which is really, I'm going to be using the answer button. The answer squared minus 2 times 150 times 228, which is again the answer cosine of B. And then when we do 100 squared and then bring these over and combine them, we get negative 64,283 something. And then on this other side, when you multiply 2 times 150, you get the 300, which is negative, times your 228 gives you negative 68,268. And you're still left with your cosine of B. So then you're doing cosine negative 1 of the 64,283 divided by 68,268, and you get 19.7 degrees. So what that means is north 19.7 degrees east, which means east of north. So you're primarily going north, but then a little bit east. Primarily north, but a little bit east. So if you have like the letters like that, that's what it's about. Y'all may know from physics, that you don't always just put northeast together. It's like east of north or north of east, depending on what direction you're primarily going. So here you're primarily going north, but then you're going a little bit east of north. So you could compare that to primarily going east, but then a little bit north. So that'd be considered north of east. And this one is east of north. So, I mean, that part you don't have to draw unless you want to, but again, just emphasizing we're going east of north, and this one you're primarily going east, but then you're going north, so it's north of east. Any questions about that? All right. Okay, two more. So this one, they're talking about avoiding a tropical storm. And here you are in San Juan, and you're 600 miles from Barbados. And you're having a little 20-degree angle here. The storm is right there, right in the way. And so they want you to go out of the way a certain point and then turn back. So you need this angle. So you're going this direction. You're going 15 knots for 10 hours. And so when you multiply that, you're going 150. And then this is really 600 away. And we basically need to use our distance formula to see that. So we've got d squared equal 150 squared plus 600 squared minus 2 times 150 times 600 cosine of 20. And then you just do square root of the answer, and so you get 462. And this answer, 462, is the distance, and that's in nautical miles. Nautical miles. Okay, and then what we need next is our angle. So I didn't draw this perfect. I guess it should have been more like that, where you can tell this is obtuse. But we want 600 squared equal 150 squared plus 462 squared minus 2 times 150 times 462 cosine of your angle. Then you do all that math, which we did before, and you'd find this obtuse angle is 153.5 degrees, but then we need the supplement of it, 180 minus 153.5, that gives you 26.5 degrees. So this part is 26.5. So our first step was basically find the distance, and then we needed to find this angle inside the triangle, and then find the supplement to that. So that had multiple steps. All right, and then 51 is our last one. And this one has to do with Wrigley Field. So basically you have home plate here, and they say the distance to center field, the fence, to dead center is 400 feet. And here's third base, which is 90 feet away from home plate. And they want to know they want to know the distance here. So imagine in this situation, you're sitting in center field, taking a picture of third baseman for the Cubs. I knew this first period. Chris Bryant. There you go. Chris Bryant. Okay, so they want to know how far this is. Okay. And now, first thing is, that these angles, it's a right angle here, and so you got your 45 and 45, right? And so 45 is the angle we're going to use in this triangle. So we have x squared equal 400 squared plus 90 squared minus 2 times 400 times 90 cosine of 45. And then you do the square root of whatever you get. And that will round to 342 feet. Okay, so that's the end of that assignment. All right, so now you can work on your reviews or your Math Excel. There's a Math Excel on this one, which was due Thursday midnight. So if you need to hang on to your paper for this, you can, and turn it in Friday.